At this time, we will open the floor for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please just state your name, come to the microphone and your address, and you speak.
I think it can be raised.
Ellen, Otsego 2000. My home address is 28 Elm Street. I'm here to speak on behalf of the farmers market vendors, who many of them attended the public information session on the Pioneer Alley project, and expressed their concerns that the timing of the fall was actually the worst time in the farmers calendar, based on when they spend their money and when they actually start earning money based on 9 months. Year they should start earning money the day that they for the next deficit season. So it is also one of our busiest times, because that is when we have both fall and spring, fall and summer produce overlapping. People are starting to think about Christmas shopping. They're thinking about Thanksgiving, and it really couldn't call it a worse time. We are much happier with the spring calendar, understanding that it could slop over into June. Still a time when the crops are really weather dependent, so they're, you've seen little fields that close the strawberry fields Saturday after an hour. After being open an hour because it was a slow spring. So this is the time when there's less risk for them in the spring than in the fall, when they really stand to lose a significant chunk of funds. We also have a significant population that uses SNAP and uses more importantly, the matching, but we have the double up food bucks, the SNAP match, and then also the Cooperstown food pantry vouchers. SNAP is actually the smallest portion of that, matched by the other two. And that is a huge program, thanks to Ted, doing all of that labor. And if we lose those customers, they don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Their SNAP dollars don't go nearly as far at price jump. And so that is also another consideration. Again, in the fall is when gardens start drying up with their gardens, and they start relying more on the farmers market. So if at all possible, it can be moved to the spring, April, May, June. That would suit us. I know it would also suit some of the other alley vendors or merchants, including the Pioneer Patio and others, because that's when everybody makes their money in the fall. Leaf peepers, electros, and then the locals. So there's that, and then just on the design, the bricks would be the porous bricks would be a liability, I think, in blacks and falling on them myself. In front of the bank, they are a liability, and I think for something that is so heavily trafficked by pedestrians, that a different porous surface should be considered, or different surface should still be valuable. So I think I've covered everything. Peg will ready to back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Anyone else? No one else has anything to public comment? Not, I'll close the public comment session. Just so you know, will probably be touched on later in the meeting in streets and probably under New York Forward as well. So it's a little bit later, but we've certainly heard all the concerns. You have correspondence in your packet. You have an absolutely amusing and wonderful letter from Henry Weil commending Officer O'Reilly of the Village Police Department. Let it be a lesson to all of us. Don't leave your keys in the car, especially if there's a similar car parked 2 down from you. An email from Mark Hooper regarding parking concerns. An email from Brian Gross regarding parking concerns. Relative to this, I did want to point out that our tickets are $40. If he was fined $50, it was because he was parking in front of a fire hydrant. We have our standard ticket is not $50. Email from Barbara Sills Sandifer regarding hometown hero flags. An email from Hoodie Podolsky, League of Women Voters, for asking for Board of Trustees sponsorship at no cost, but just supporting sponsorship of Susan B. Anthony event on 6/27/26. Is there any comment, discussion on that? If you recall, we did support the Weiss
Yeah.
author upstairs. It was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. All the sponsors were recognized. There were little placards recognizing all the sponsors. This is the kind of reenactment of Susan B. Anthony at the Presbyterian Church, Saturday, June 27th, 2026, from 2 to 4. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to co-sponsor the Susan B. Anthony event on June 27th.
Second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
We will open the public hearing on the proposed wording changes to our village smoking and vaping law at 6:30. Moving on, we have review of minutes from May 18th, regular meeting, and June 8th, 2026, special meeting. I know Cindy and I both submitted a couple corrections. I will move that we approve the May 18th regular meeting minutes and the June 8th special meeting minutes with corrections submitted, seconded by Audrey. All in favor?
Aye.
We have basically a permit request or approval. Friends of the Parks, Susie Knight emailed a PowerPoint earlier today. She also provided material. I think those of us who've seen sort of the color or image or seen this in person realize it's a wonderful match. I think they did a great job of really matching the chimney and the foundation. And this is really to approve the retaining wall material at Berry Spring.
Ask a question. Does HPARB have a role in making a recommendation about this to us?
About the what?
About this decision?
I believe they have seen.
They have seen it. It's kind of a courtesy one because this is in the town of Middlefield. Susie's also had to go to the town of Middlefield with this, but they have seen it and thought it was appropriate.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that. I'm thinking of what we have to do in the Water and Sewer Board is make a recommendation for
Mhm.
the action, but I didn't know that there had been one, so it looks good to me.
As I say, it's a bit of a courtesy thing because it's not within the village itself. It's in the town of Middlefield, so they do have to go to, I believe it's July 3rd or something, the Middlefield Town Planning Board as well. So why don't we make it formal then? Motion to accept their selection of stone material.
Move to accept the
Audrey,
Amherst limestone material.
perfect. Second by George, all in favor?
Hey.
We also have a permit request. If you recall, this came up last month and we made a decision on this business's vending space for the Classic Weekend. This is now for the July induction weekend. And this time he submitted a picture from, I believe that was a couple years ago, 2024. So 2 years ago, he was in front of the wall at Doubleday Field. I did kind of do a little research on this. And first of all, I asked how many people, you know, he was given a space. He already has the first space in Doubleday parking lot, kind of the primo spot. For those who remember, like 4 years ago, we had a bit of a zoo in front of Doubleday with businesses. Mr. Squeeze was on the right side, and he was on the left with his banners and flags and people standing in front. And even though the street is, open for pedestrians, at that point, once they're going to be running the parade, et cetera, they closed that down and it became incredibly kind of chaotic. And obviously, we've rented all those other spaces to people who weren't given the option of being on our main street. They were all very happy to be in the spaces they're in. I looked up a little bit about this company because he does, indicate that he works with, of course, the hall locally. This is a multi-million-dollar business. Any game, any place, any time, and it's mostly you can go on and buy your Super Bowl tickets. They handle every sport imaginable. I don't know if I printed all that, but it was not just baseball, it was football, tennis, basketball, golf, hockey, horse racing, soccer, tennis, and then there's custom travel. So I do feel that we shouldn't make an exception, but if someone wants to approve his location change to Maine, they can make a decision or make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the location change to Maine, given the nature of this business, which does not support long lines of people seeking beverages such as lemonade.
So you're saying put it in front of Doubleday. Okay, motion made. Is there a second? Second, all right.
Well, if we're discussing it, I would recommend and tend to vote against it. I think with the induction weekend and the crowds, pedestrian space and people movement is at a premium all along the street there. So if they have a space allocated
They
to them,
do.
as you say, inside the parking lot, I think they ought to be joining the others who are there.
I have to say, I think I agree with Joe. I don't know. I'm looking at this and thinking it kind of obliterates, well, partially
arch.
anyway, our arch. And I don't know. I mean, how bad is it to be on the inside in a primo spot on the inside?
No, and exactly.
And he has the option, you remember, any of these vendors can go to any business owner and get a vending spot in front of the business. So there is that option for them. They are not being directed.
Were they here last year?
They were
Yeah.
inside
Yeah,
last year.
inside, and they were fine with that. No, they
No.
want to be back
No,
here.
Is there, you say, no, was there a reason, what did they give as a reason they were not satisfied to be where the other vendors were?
I think that was in the letter that we looked at last time. That they were,
Yeah.
They just felt they were more visible,
yeah.
which they,
No,
Well,
kidding.
yeah.
because they're,
Right.
okay. So the
Um,
motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of allowing Jay's Sports to vend in front of Doubleday along the sidewalk, say aye.
I-
Two. Those opposed? Three.
Nay.
Right. Moving on. We have the zoning official report. I don't know if there were any questions or comments about that. We then have two kind of action items under zoning.
I had a comment about the Bassett request. And thank you, Jenna. I'm supposing that you were the one who pulled the temporary use permit, which does refer to fees, which we probably never set.
Yeah.
But that law does indicate 7 days in any calendar year, and the request is for 10 days in any calendar year. So I think unless they want to seek a variance, they need to stick to 7 this year, and we can talk about whether we want to change the law in the future to allow more of these types of uses, but right now it says 7.
When they did this before, didn't we give them not a temporary use permit, but a special use permit similar to Cooperstown Co-works, which we allow to have 12 kind of events a year?
It's this.
No, we gave them this.
We gave them a temporary one?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I'm just confused because they were requesting a special use permit, so I didn't know in their letter, so I didn't know if they were asking for something different.
Ask a question. You said they want to do it for 10 days?
It
Where
says-
is that?
It says no more than 10 food truck events within a calendar year in the second paragraph.
So like,
More than 10. Because they're just doing it August 25th and 26th.
Well, no, they say beginning August 25th
Oh,
of
yes, I see,
2026 and
yes.
ending
Yeah.
August 26th of 2027.
so in a
Yeah.
calendar year, there would be potentially 10 events.
So is this the same law we would be changing that was brought up by the Landmark Inn folks who want to have special events?
No, that's different.
It's totally different. Yeah.
But our current law says 7.
It does. It's actually in your packet.
Yeah.
Because it also refers to appropriate fees.
Yeah. Except, and you know how it's different for Landmark, it is a special use permit and we
Correct.
did, and that's why I just was confused because
I think they used the wrong words in the first paragraph. A special use permit would require referral to the planning board and a public hearing, and
Mhm.
that clearly goes beyond, I think, what we need to allow food trucks in their parking lot on a small number of days.
We certainly have time because their first event isn't till August 25th, 2026. So they're applying several months in advance.
But I'm sure they have to reserve the food trucks.
Mhm. Mhm.
A special use permit doesn't cover this type of use in a residential area.
So your suggestion is that we approve them for 7 events in that location?
Yes.
With the application of a temporary use permit?
We'll say if we think this is a good idea, we could also set a public hearing to amend 7 days to 10 days and then have them come back if the law has been amended.
Mhm.
Or
But-
14 days or whatever number of days we think is appropriate.
To change the actual
Law.
permit
Yeah.
law, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So is there a motion?
A motion to,
Approve their a temporary, encourage them to apply. They have to complete the application and pay the fees, but for a temporary use permit for up to 7 events a year from the period August 25th, 2026 and ending August 26th, 2027.
I'll move to make that motion to approve 7 events from August 25th to August 26th, 2026 to 2027. And that they should submit a temporary use.
So I'll second it so we can discuss it, but it's 7 events right now in any calendar year. So
Right.
this calendar year, they will be having 7 between August and
Oh,
December.
that's a good point.
Oh,
That's a good point.
24th,
So
you're right.
I think we shouldn't,
Put those dates on it.
so if
Yeah.
if they're having 7 from August forward, maybe they're covered. And it's hard to believe there'll be 10 between, but maybe there will be, but I agree with sticking with the law, and if we want to change it, I think we should think it through as to what the magic number is for this.
Yeah, that was 7.
Too much of a burden on the community with that.
I will say they should also fill out the application because there is an application for this
Right.
type of use that they probably weren't aware of because there wasn't last year.
All right.
Is that part of zoning? Cause I'm not aware of a separate act.
It's under zoning.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I have and maybe you were touching on this. Within a calendar year, so is that January 1st of 26 to December 31st, 20?
That's a calendar year.
Yeah.
That's what
So,
Joe's saying.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Okay, all right.
All right. So any other questions? A motion has been made.
What is the motion now?
Now you have to amend it
To
to,
the,
to
August,
have them apply for a temporary use permit
right?
for
For
up to 7 events in this calendar year.
Yes.
Not put the dates. In. Right, okay,
I
yes,
suspect they did August, because their last one went August to August.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they already have some cover on this year, so I don't know if that makes sense to do this year. They already have up to August approved, they approved a year.
Right. But I assume they're going to want them after August 26th into the fall. And so,
Calendar year that doesn't cover them.
but what we're saying
Oh.
is that we can only regulate for the calendar year, which is a 7
Right.
limitation.
So you're raising an interesting wrinkle. How many events have they had in this calendar year? If it's more than,
Oh,
if.
have they already had food
If
trucks?
it's more than
They did.
3,
I think they did.
When did they have?
I
You
think,
might want to table it and get this
Yeah.
information. We're
Yeah.
not hurting anything here.
Yeah,
'Cause I think there's a couple of good questions.
yeah.
I mean, alternatively, we could just say you can have 7 in 2026 and you can have 7 in 2027 according to our law. Right,
Yeah.
and
But they,
Complete the temporary,
Complete,
complete the application.
Yeah.
including anything you've already had in
including
26.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Okay.
were you, is that a friendly amendment?
yes, that's friendly.
Okay.
Don't ask me to repeat
Very
it.
good. Okay, so that's the amendment. It was seconded.
Second?
All in favor?
Can I make a motion to ask the planning board to investigate further what the planning board would like to recommend to the trustees as the appropriate number of this type of event?
Yes, I'll second that. If we need to, or we're just gonna recommend it as a board.
Yeah, is everyone in concurrence?
Yeah.
Fine. Alright. Moving on, we have Glimmerglass signage request, 12 by 18 street sign to be mounted on post near Key Bank.
So this is in our law designated as a public transportation stop. So what they are asking is to add additional signage stipulating that their particular transportation stops there. They wanted to do it, as you may have read, to the planning board via a sandwich board, which is not something that we allow. So now they are asking for a sign on our post. I'll make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second it. Is there any discussion? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, let's see, what can we get into? Why don't we, we have public safety, and I believe, did we get additional,
Yes.
minutes in our attendance? Yes, so you will find them there. And I want to, because our last meeting was, I think it was our last one, went like, what, 5 hours? Almost 4 hours? We do have, remember, everybody, our reports, and everybody I know has done their homework and read this over the weekend. If we have questions about anything in here, let's ask them, but otherwise the committee chair doesn't need to reiterate everything that we've all read. And these are public, so anybody who wants to read these reports can read them as well. So let's see if we can get public safety in before our 6:30 public hearing.
We met on, you met on June 3rd. Certainly here, certainly here within the village, the season has opened up and there were a lot of traffic issues, there were crosswalk issues, we're limited in the number of police officers we have during each of the tours. However, the officer in charge, Jess Lanza, seems to be doing a fabulous job moving people along, moving the police attention to the areas where it's most needed. And again, it's not just here up on Main Street. One of the choke points for us is certainly up by the hospital, for example, on Esley in front of Fieldstone there, with the circle and the like. So they have a lot of stuff to do. The other hand, the parking enforcement officers have been working diligently, okay? Sometimes generating concerns from people who get ticketed. We're trying to pay a lot more attention to the property in front of the post office, which at times is used as a parking space, is not as a mail drop-off point, if you will. I don't think they have any special requests for equipment at this time. But the dialogue between the department, the officers, and this individual is really good. We talk on a regular basis. And again, the officer in charge is extraordinarily responsive to requests that come his way. Any questions or concerns, comments? Thank you.
And fire is later this month, the meeting. I'm trying.
No, we already had our.
No, the minutes are in your additional.
Okay, I didn't see them there. I will. Any questions or comments?
Separate if the law was attached to the actual agenda.
Oh, okay.
With the separate piece.
Got it. Any questions or comments on fire and EMS committee minutes? Motion to accept the public safety committee report.
So moved.
Moved by Cindy, second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we got a couple minutes. So I will, I'm not going to open it for public comment, but I will not move on to anything else. In your packets and sent separately, you have the Villages Chapter 233, smoking and vaping law. There were, when this law was crafted and then it was amended a couple times, including when we allowed cannabis stores. So we included that and e-cigarettes, et cetera. So there've been sort of changes to this law, most recently in 2021. What was proposed, and this is just, tentative wording, is highlighted in your copy of the law. It's highlighted in yellow. It was found that even though we had posted no smoking signs at all our buildings, that we had omitted including that in our law. So the only ones mentioned in our law were Village Hall, adjoining land at 22 Main, Doubleday Field grandstand, bleachers, and other spectator and player areas, sidewalks, and adjacent public property on Main Street between Fair Street and Pine Boulevard, and all of our parks, Council Rock, Lakefront, Pioneer, Badger Park, 3 Mile Point, and Ferry Spring Park. Our other buildings, such as our water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, streets building, and fire hall were not included. So this is an attempt to include those buildings within the no smoking area. I will now open the floor for public comment. Anyone who would like to speak about the smoking and vaping law. I should point out, we did get, it was emailed right before our meeting from Monica Carrascosa saying that they had not really had an opportunity to consider it. And that's fine. The law has been publicly advertised. We approved, this came up in buildings at the beginning of May. And at our May meeting, we considered this proposed changes and set the public hearing for tonight. So the wording has been out there, but we certainly are amenable to changing anything. So at this time, I will open the public hearing, and anybody who would like to speak to the proposed changes to the village's smoking and vaping law is welcome to speak.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the village board. I'm Daphne Young, member of the Cooperstown Fire. Before I begin, I want to note that I'm speaking solely on my behalf. These remarks reflect my personal opinion and do not be construed as any official position of the fire department, as this matter has not been formally considered or acted on by the department's membership or leadership. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of prohibiting smoking and vaping on fire department property, and fire department buildings, and fire department vehicles. I speak about this proposal. It's not about telling adults what they can or cannot do in their personal lives. It's about establishing appropriate standards for public property and for an organization whose mission is protecting the health and safety of our community. As firefighter and emergency medical responders, we spend our careers encouraging healthy choices and working to reduce preventable illness and injury. We respond to cardiac emergencies, respiratory illnesses, and other medical conditions that are often associated with tobacco use. It is difficult to promote those messages while simultaneously preventing smoking and vaping on the very property in which we provide those services. Firefighters also face a unique occupational health risk. Throughout our careers, we are exposed to smoke, toxic chemicals, carcinogens, and other hazardous substances. The fire service has made tremendous progress in recent years to reduce those exposures through cancer prevention initiatives, diesel exhaust reduction programs, improved protective equipment, and firefighter wellness efforts. Creating a smoke-free and vape-free campus is simply another logical step in protecting the health of those who serve. This proposal also protects visitors to the property. Fire stations are no longer facilities used only by firefighters. They host public meetings, community events, training programs, youth activities, and fundraising events. Residents should be able to attend those functions without being exposed to tobacco smoke or vaping emissions. There's also an important issue of image professionalism. The fire station is one of the most visible public buildings in our community. It represents a public service, safety, and leadership. The tobacco-free campus demonstrates that we take those responsibilities seriously and that we are committed to providing a healthy environment for our members and the public alike. Many schools, hospitals, government buildings, and public safety agencies have already adopted smoke-free campus policies. This proposal simply brings our fire department in line with modern workplace and public health standards. Our department struggles with their commitment and essential to member members. A clean, professional, tobacco-free environment increasingly reflects the expectations of new volunteers and community partners. Most importantly, this policy respects personal choice. It does not prohibit legal activities away from department policy. It simply establishes a reasonable expectation for behavior on public property dedicated to protecting the health and welfare of our community. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the board to support the removal of smoking and vaping from our fire department property. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Beth. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Monica, we did receive your email, communication went to the entire board and you referenced it earlier before you came. Is there, anyone else who would like to speak?
Then did you get one of these? Or?
No, I can.
Okay, Commissioner.
I just want it to be clear that the email that was sent to you today reads as follows. This was a unanimous vote across the board. Our board believes that it is a reasonable compromise on the Cooperstown Fire Department premise would be to have a designated smoking area outside the building and that no smoking occurs near the doors or windows. I do not believe that there was a clear communication between the village and the fire department about this issue. There was a phone call between you and me that was held, as a side note from different, I had called you for a different reason and you relayed this to me. I would believe at the end of that phone conversation that you would try to have a designated smoking area. I then brought it up at my last public safety meeting, which was 2 days following your last meeting when you guys had, according to the minutes, clearly had a discussion about where firemen would smoke if you banned it at the fire hall. I was kind of diverted away from that and got no answer, and then asked upon it again. And I actually didn't know about this meeting until an email that was forwarded to me in Monica. I'm trying not to put my position out there as the chief of the fire department, but I believe that there was a complete disrespect and disregard for chain of command that led to this law being proposed. That being said, I have not had the time to meet with my membership to get a broader overview of what the membership believes. So I will hold that as I am not speaking for the entirety of the membership. But I meet regularly with the Public Safety Committee, and I've been told on numerous accounts that I need to focus all my energy on the good and forget the rest. So what I brought to you today is highlighting the 3 members of my fire department that I know of that have smoked within the last year. Now, I highlighted with the vertical up and down line is how many fire calls they have responded to. One of them hasn't responded to a single one, so I don't even consider him a threat as to either or to smoke in my mind. Now, the other 2 are in a 2-way or a 3-way tie as my top responders. That's taken me out of the equation. I'm the chief, and I believe that's my duty to be the top responder. And the numbers will show that. But if there is a 3-way tie, and unfortunately, this is the most current data I have. It's only until the end of April. I come to you guys asking. We're in a crisis of getting recruits, keeping recruits, and where does that any member that chooses to smoke go? They go to the right, they have the county office building, they can't smoke by it. They go to the left, they have no restaurant. They go behind, over the wall, that's county again. Just looking for, we have a line item budget for cable TV to help retain our current members and provide fun stuff to them. We are volunteers. They are not paid to come. What are we offering them? If we can give them a area off to the corner to If they want to kill themselves one puff at a time in a remote area and save 100 lives in the process, I will take them every day, all day. I'm just coming here looking for a solution. I hear all these bad things about smoke, but yet I see this new law, you include everything in the village except for Doubleday parking lot. You're telling me the smoke's so bad, people are paying you to come be in the smoke. But yet I can't have a parking lot with smoke. I don't know the answer, and I really wish that you guys would table this for a month until I could come back with a more solid information from the membership.
Thank you, Billy. I want to speak to it first, Joe. Just so you know, this came up in buildings on May 8th. And then we discussed it as a board on May 18th. All the village meetings are recorded. You can watch them at home. We understood that concern. But by law, we have to propose something to even kind of set a public hearing to discuss it. So the law with those yellow tweaks was revised. This doesn't mean that it's something that's set in stone. There'll be discussion on this, and the only thing we can tweak to a proposed if we make it less restrictive in a sense. And less restrictive would say, yes, there would be a space where they could smoke. We did listen to your concern, Billy. I just don't want you to feel like we were running roughshod here. And I'm sorry you didn't get some of that communication from your meetings with the village. So this is going to be discussed by the board tonight. They can amend this, they can not change it, or they can, throw it all out. As I say, it really came up because a former trustee was pretty adamant about this, and he installed no smoking signs in all our public buildings. And at that time, we did include Village Hall and all the land surrounding it, because, there's kids outside the library building, et cetera. We really could do that. We also do Main Street from Fair to Pine Boulevard is no smoking, all our parks, et cetera. So there are ways to change this. We have had no smoking signs at our water treatment plant, our sewer plant, our streets department, and they're at the fire hall too for, at least 8 years when that trustee was on the board. The building itself, that's right. So that's why I'm saying there can be a less restrictive component. This isn't set in stone.
At the end of that part where I wanted a little more clear communication, I asked the question on public safety meeting, who enforces this law? And it was kind of like, well, it's not enforced. But if you guys create the law, am I not supposed to enforce it as chief?
No, it's not. I wouldn't say it's your responsibility to enforce it. I wouldn't. Well, it's like we have 30-mile-an-hour limit in the village. Does everyone do 30 miles an hour? No. Do we catch and ticket everybody who goes over 30 miles? We don't. But that doesn't mean you don't have the law. It gives you the capacity to regulate. Whether it's, we just had this recently about a particular style of boat on, on Otsego Lake. So yeah, the enforcement's a whole nother thing, but that doesn't prevent the law. It codifies what we had thought was in place all along, that our streets department, water plant, et cetera. And we have employees who smoke, so we understand that.
I understand that they're also paid and compensated, and that's they have to go to work. We don't. We're
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Thank you, Billy. Joe?
A couple of clarifying questions. Your concern was that if this law was passed, you had a personal or professional responsibility to monitor.
I'm obligated. I fall under you guys. You guys are my ruling organizations, so whatever you guys push forward, it's then my job to push forward. And that's my job, or it's my captain's job, and then that's the chain of command.
I understand your concern. The second clarifying question was, in the sheet you highlighted, there are three people you know to smoke. And you know people pretty well.
I would hope.
So, no, I mean, that you see. And so, there are two with 52 calls to date. And those, have you spoken with them? Have they given you any indication of their view of this?
One was those emails that, the other one just that I want to look at people that they call. That's not, that's their again falling under the enforcement, that can't be, I don't want to do that.
Okay, well, I appreciate your help. I mean, understand your concerns better. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Are there any? Oh,
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I think you're well aware that the board is very interested in working towards a solution, and we did have some conversation of what some of the options may be. And we'll just make it our business to meet, chat, and figure out a plan that perhaps is less restrictive. Maybe it's tied into more information that comes the way of firefighters and the like regarding health issues.
Members, they're here, firefighters call. I may all I and you know about just. That's the same thing. You know, I need to see any returns from any of that, so. Hopefully come to
Is it fair to ask one other clarifying question? Have you developed an alternative yet with your colleagues?
And we, that was the, you got thrown this at the last public safety meeting, we only had 4 present board members, we unanimously said that night to have a designated spot over in the corner to make sure all doors and windows are closed if you're gonna smoke. And obviously not in building or apparatus. That being said, there was questions this morning about the fact that the remaining 3 board members weren't present, not know about it, so then we went through an email tag. And it was all 7 during the designated area. But, yeah, we can talk to the membership. Okay. We just found out.
Thank you.
Yeah, but in the building, it's because they want, yeah. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to that? No? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing for discussion.
So I did go back and look through some notes from when this was originally updated. So part of the reason, perhaps not all of the reason, but part of the reason those places were not listed is that the New York Clean Indoor Air Act already prohibited, when we did this law, smoking within a workplace.
building.
Right, within a building. So the addition of the grounds was the issue. Having watched Bassett go through this same process, where Bassett became, due to New York state law in that case, a smoke-free campus. So the smokers went and smoked in front of their Bassett's neighbor's property. And now, if you've been to Bassett, you know that there are designated areas. I would be strongly in favor of designated areas, not just at the fire hall, but at other workplaces where we have individuals, so that our employees and volunteers' bad habits don't get pushed onto our public property neighbors.
Joe?
I'm wondering if we should await a more thorough proposal. I mean, I'm looking at have the firehouse campus in mind, and I'm not sure where that space would be. Is there a space in mind that would actually accommodate this
I
this
think-
amendment.
I think Monica's suggested that there's a place behind, there's parking. We changed all that from public parking to firemen only parking. So there is parking behind it. So it was suggested, a place out of sort of public view. So you're not seeing people standing in front of the fire hall doing it, but they would be in a location away from windows and ventilation, so it's not getting sucked back in, which seemed, I would hesitate to delay this, and I think there's a simpler way to do it, and then actually specify in a law where it's going to be. I think that all of those people, if we essentially do the buildings, which is what is New York State law anyway, then it's not including the property, and people at the water treatment plant or wastewater treatment plant who smoke can, again, go to a parking place on the property without hitting neighbors.
Right, well, I think there's a substantial difference between the wastewater treatment campus and this, as it was said, it's a very visible place. So where this site is, I think is pretty significant to whether it's something that I'd be comfortable approving, so
All right, George?
Parking area behind the building is pretty sizable. And we had some discussion, say perhaps we can designate a portion of that as a smoking area, so people, if they needed to step outside, have a cigarette and come back inside. I think it's a reasonable compromise.
Thank you, George. Audrey?
Yeah, I agree with what George said. I'm obviously not in favor of smoking, but I understand that some people need to smoke perhaps. So I think a designated spot with the precautions that we've talked about, closing the windows, etc., would be a reasonable way, because we don't want to lose our volunteers. And if this could push somebody to stop volunteering, that would be a shame.
Thank you. This, as we said, when we drafted this, and basically we had this discussion last month before we even set this public hearing. There's a simple way to make this law kind of less restrictive. And that right now it says the following buildings and adjoining lands. If those three words are removed, then it becomes owned by the village are hereby designated as smoke and vape-free zones. So you're essentially saying you cannot smoke in the building. It would seem that's the way to go, because every place is going to have kind of their own little location or designated area. I don't think that should be codified, but that allows this to go forward with the building itself becoming smoke-free.
So how would it start, Ellen?
The following buildings owned by the village are hereby designated as smoke and vape-free zones: water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, streets building, fire hall. Then it's village hall and adjoining land. That would be the one with the adjoining land because of
Yeah.
the use of this building for children, etc.
Would it be better to just stick with areas? Because a sidewalk isn't a building, and that comes later on the list.
Right, but neither is the grandstand. I mean,
That's why I'm suggesting the following areas, which is what it had said previously.
but then perhaps it should be as well as, how about that? As well as village hall and adjoining land, because then you're starting to do all the
Yep.
facilities
That's fine.
as well as.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
I have I'm trying to bridge the gap between the two speakers for the fire department. It seems to me we need to have a requirement of a designated area. I think anywhere outside the fire hall is, especially when the doors are open, especially when they're public meetings and the things that were described, that's too too broad, I think, to achieve what we're trying to do. So somehow, I think, we have to provide a little more protection for the non-smokers by making it, we don't have to say this quadrant of this, or, but we have to say it has to be a designated, there has to be a designated area, and we should have some, I don't know, demarcation or limit of it. I don't want to get too bureaucratic about it, but I think just saying, as long as you're outside the building, you can smoke anywhere, especially in the fire hall context, is not gonna protect a lot of people from smoking.
I would be hesitant to start designating places in the law. I think that obviously if you can't smoke in the building, you're going outside it. And it sounds like this is something that the fire department's already considered and thought about where they would locate something away from windows, sort of out of the public eye and away from ventilation systems. So I think I would give them the authority, as they have on much of their building, on how they'd place that. And I think it would have a greater chance of success if it's created within the department as opposed to a top-down.
Right, I recognize that, but I don't know if our law is written as proposed to be amended, that our fire department will consider it has the authority to confine those outdoor spaces. Because under the law, people can smoke anywhere outside.
Well, we've removed the words "and adjoining land," so it's solely the building.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but given the nature of that building, there's a lot of transmission of smoke on that property through open bay doors and everything else. So I'm respecting Chief Smith's concern. I'm also respecting the other side of this. I think leaving it, I think it's a bigger challenge for the fire department if we don't require a designated area. We don't have to know what it is, but we have to know that if it's a designated area, the idea is it's going to confine the smoke as much as possible from affecting other people who are outside.
Since you have spoken about it and we've had an email about it, et cetera, I would like the opinion of the fire department. Do they want the board to designate, or would they like that autonomy within the department?
If we talk about amongst the department, and like if your concern is to have it in stone, have something as simple as the designated smoking area designed or determined by the membership. And then that way, if that one doesn't work out, okay, you know, there's too many complaints about that one, you either try a different one or we watch it again at that later date.
If I may comment on that, I am not trying to be the one to designate what the smoking area is. I'm just saying that there has to be a designated smoking area. The administration of the fire hall can figure that out. I have confidence that they would do that.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah, and that's what I think should happen. I don't think it should, we can tweak it into the law.
But we can.
Just show me the wording, Joe. The following buildings, just insert it there.
Can you just say,
I think there's going to have to be another sentence. This is one run-on sentence. We have to say that and these are village buildings, the treatment plant, the wastewater, these are all public buildings. I'd have to think about it. It's, you can't do this on the fly, but the idea is that there would be a statement that each of these village buildings may establish a designated smoking area. That's the idea, and we're not saying who's, but
But-
to
but-
read.
There are rules about that what you just said don't account for. So for instance, the designated area cannot be inside. Right? According, what, right? Well.
Right, well, we've already made them smoke-free in this statement, right? Or I'm not
Yeah.
changing that. The buildings are smoke-free. We're trying to talk about the property on which they're
Yeah.
located. And I don't have a good, I mean, you're saying you saw this tonight. If I could sit down and think of, and write something, look at some of the regulations. But the concept is there has to be a designated area and it has to pass muster with whatever the regulatory scheme is. But I trust the good faith of the firefighters to do that in a way that is compliant and protective of others.
Officer Lanza thinks there may be a foot stipulation in the Clean Indoor Air Act, and I have not yet been able to find it. That it
Number of
has to be
feet.
so many feet
Feet.
from an entrance or a building or a window, and I'm trying to find the wording.
I mean, I suggest that we leave the hearing open to gather more information, but we make a decision. I don't think we can make a decision and draft on the fly tonight. I don't think that's.
The only thing I would say is, it had gotten run on, so forget the as well as you, that we were going to put in there. The following buildings owned by the village are hereby designated as smoke and vape-free zones: water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, streets, building, fire hall, period. Those departments may determine a designated smoking area beyond the building, outside the building.
And according to New York state law, it actually has to be 100 feet.
Oh. 100 feet?
That it says.
Oh, yeah.
It's certainly not.
The ladder.
Bassett, is it a nice day?
I don't know. This is not me saying this. Jess is texting me with
Really 100 feet?
information from the New York State.
Foreseen 100 feet, I'm sure, so,
Mhm.
you know, I think you would have the authority, because I don't think if you put it in the law, that it'll be
Yeah.
30 feet outside the building.
So-
No one's gonna come after us.
So it does say, just so we're clear, smoking shall not be permitted and no person shall smoke within 100 feet of the entrance, exit, or outdoor area of any public. Oh, no, Jess, this is just for libraries.
As I said, I think we need to deliberate.
Might need a little more time.
I would like us to settle at least on the concept of a designated smoking
Yeah.
area. And. the
You
details
want,
we have to work
you
on.
don't want it specified for each one of our buildings. You just want those departments may determine a designated smoking
Well,
area.
There's a distinction with a difference
Mhm.
between the fire hall and its members and our employees who work at other plants. We have, I think, more authority. It's the bargain for employment, as opposed to an inducement or volunteers. So I'm trying to, it's just, we're mushing too many things together.
Mhm.
I think the notion of a designated spot is something we ought to work on, but it won't fit neatly for our other employee centers.
Mhm.
I think this is a lot to digest. I don't want to make a hasty and foolish decision.
Says sense to leave the public, I closed it, I believe, but rather than renotice it again, do we leave the public hearing open? We could, and see if there's an amendment when we get more feedback.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if you, because we end up wordsmithing at a meeting. So you have a copy, correct? If you arrive at the wording that you would like to see, particularly for the fire hall, that maybe is a standalone second sentence, and you should consider it. Right? Is that amenable? Or, yep. But this board would not meet again till July. That would be the only time we'd be able to approve it. So you have plenty of time to cogitate. All right, all right. So I'm leaving the public hearing open. We will hear back in July at our meeting and hopefully with some revised language. And if you do revise it, if it could come to the village clerk early enough that it can be disseminated publicly, that would be great.
And if you have something ahead of time to get to us to look at, don't wait till the last minute, because that'll just
No,
lead
that's
to
what we're
this
saying.
again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, we're moving on to Doubleday Advisory Committee. Molly couldn't be here. You have the minutes in the packet. Were there any questions or comments? Motion to accept the Doubleday Committee report,
I move to accept it.
second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, Streets Committee.
All right. Maybe we'll let people get out of the room. This is the restroom. Audrey had to step out for a moment. We did approve the stone.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. I kind of found the wrong time on my calendar, but I did love it down here.
Those of us who had seen it, because we got black and white copies in our packet, attested to the fact that you did a fabulous job.
Okay. Maybe 10% larger than the sea. Heavy, don't want to make.
Yeah, it's heavy enough as it is.
What you would want for that wall, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, Susie. Appreciate that.
Is that manufactured stone?
Yeah.
Yes.
But she,
Cultured. It's called cultured stone. Means it's concrete.
I also had a very funny interaction with the Sterling Foundation the other day, but I don't know if they're talking. I'm afraid that. They were starting to appreciate their rustic nature, very spring, I haven't really understood it. There were a lot of interesting off, like, you have faith that, you see that. Oh, be a lot of money, sure.
Well, I'll tell our funny street story while we wait for Audrey to come back, and that is that last month, you may recall that I reported on the Fowler Way sign and the fact that it had been shipped to Canada and become contraband. So we had a new Fowler Way sign constructed, erected, and almost immediately somebody hit it. Fortunately, we had extra legs for it, so it could be re-erected, but that sign is just doomed.
we are, putting other,
Ballards around
we
it.
put them on the roadside. Didn't occur to us that people exiting the parking lot would also smash into it. That's unfortunate.
All right, so streets committee minutes, I'll try to just give you the areas where we need some updates. The first concerns the trolley. So last month, we voted to repair trolley 547. And since we made that vote, there is additional information that has come to light. And that is that currently, and that currently is the important word, we'll get to that in a minute. If we were to make those repairs and then the county were to sell that vehicle and they sold it at a profit, which we presume they would, the county would only be allowed to keep and reinvest in the trolley system $5,000 plus 20%, which was not our original understanding. The reason it may not have been our original understanding is that currently there is legislation pending so this is federal money, right, that was used in the United States Congress that would repeal that restriction. And I believe it's a relatively new restriction that might have gone into place in 2021. So in any case, right now, the same thing to do is not to repair the trolley and to transfer it to another municipality that has used federal 5311 funds. If this legislation were to pass at some point in the future, that would have been a mistake, but
Right.
you know, who knows?
It had already passed the Governmental Affairs Committee to because they had this information. Somehow it hadn't all been imparted to the village.
So I have a question. If we pass this vehicle on to another municipality, we don't see anything from it? Or-
Yeah, so we should specify that the we is actually the county. They are the owner. They
Okay.
can receive up to 10%
Mhm.
of the original purchase price,
Okay.
which based on the contract that we looked at last month, would then be reinvested in the trolley system.
Remember these trolleys, the village has sold all the trolleys that we bought. And one of the ones, and it's not this one, we did pay like
Yeah, it's
10
this one. We paid the
Or was it this one? We paid the $10,000. The others that are out there, we have not contributed at all. So it's just the county's got the skin in the game and not us.
So I would like to make a motion to repeal our previous act, which actually doesn't technically exactly follow Robert's rules. But given new information, that we recommend to the county that they transfer this vehicle to another 5311 municipality and attempt to maximize the 10% return.
I'll second. All in favor?
All right, that's the trolley. The trolley is in operation now. It started at its full-time routes on Saturday, and on Saturday we had over 200 riders.
Wow.
So now what our farmers market friends are here for, New York Forward, which is on your page 3 of your streets minutes. So in your packets, I started drafting some based on the comments that we heard at the public information session. The first paragraph about funding just provides some additional information that I don't think our engineers made clear about how this is funded. So it's funded through New York Forward, and there is a fixed budget of $530,000 that will not change. That is what has been allocated for this project. I know a lot of people remembered a previous iteration of this project where we applied for Green Innovations Grant Program funding, and we did not receive that. It was a higher amount, and it was a somewhat different project. So anyways, that's that. The next part is about timing. So I think we heard to a person who spoke on this issue at the public information session that the strong desire is to move this project from a fall start to a spring start. It seems like that is the community's approach, and my suggestion to the trustees is that we follow up on that. We do have to understand that when spring starts in upstate New York is always a bit questionable. And as was said during the public comment, spring can certainly extend into June, depending on when it starts. So why don't we just look at all of these and then we can decide how we want to move forward. I think we also will have concerns about permeable pavers. Those same concerns will extend to any permeable surface or a porous surface. The way those work is that they take in water. And when they take in water and it freezes, it gets slippery. So in saying no permeable pavers, we are probably also saying no porous asphalt, no permeable concrete. There are lots of iterations, but they all work by absorbing water. When you absorb water and it gets to freezing, it gets slippery.
I guess, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I understood that the reason the brick pavers were a problem was because they're smooth.
No,
It's not because.
They shift in our climate, the freezing and,
They're-
thaw, et cetera.
Yeah, they're like
But
sponge.
there's not
Yeah.
not a rough kind of surface that also allows for water.
permeability.
Yeah.
I think if we had a rough surface, then it become a trip hazard.
Yeah, the thing is. Go
But
ahead.
with some sort of texture to it is what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know, would that be a tripping?
Well, the difference is, and this took me a long time to trip to, when I was thinking of a permeable surface, I thought the interstices of the bricks is where the water infiltrated, but no, the bricks themselves are like a sponge. So they
Right.
absorb water and it's only,
And it-
they're only that thick.
Okay, so the water doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't
Freeze.
percolate down into.
Eventually it does, but in the meantime, it'll freeze
Mhm.
in the right temperature or the wrong temperature, and that's where it's.
Right.
It is the
Slippery.
interstices, though, that does much of the filtration. And we did see designs, he may even have pulled them up later, I can't remember, of, it was very attractive and it wasn't, quote, permeable. It was spacing, pattern
Right.
spacing in like a
Right.
concrete
Like a
section that we were very encouraged by and have
Linear drain.
and suggested that that type of surface might be the best for going down there.
So if we're thinking about eliminating permeable pavers or similar sorts of slippery things from the project, then we need to think more critically about stormwater. And so we have been talking to the engineers about various filtration systems that could be installed before the water from this project hits Willowbrook that would allow for filtration of sediment particularly, trash, oils, gasoline, those types of things before it goes into Willowbrook. So that is a possibility. And our engineers are looking into various types of things, which I think we can present to the Watershed Supervisory Committee. I asked Paul Lord already if he recommended one type over another, and he said no, but if you bring it to me, I'd be happy to critique it.
So one thing that this, industrial cleaners, Perry, the Hardwell Cafe, they want all of their equipment,
Okay.
and it goes right into that drip. And we've talked to them, but
Okay.
there isn't.
Yep. Good to know.
Could I, associated with this, with that filtration system we're just talking about, would the metal grates, much narrower, but they would capture the water and get it off the surface and into that channel, that would minimize the amount of space used for the drainage, and it would probably be easier to walk. For well design.
Probably. Might not be easy to get dumpsters off of. Because that was another concern we heard about trash pickup and the need for smooth surfaces without interruption. So there's going to be a careful balance. And then the last thing that was on my list was about the relocation of overhead wires. Mitch has reached out to NYSEG. Mitch has been taking some vacation time, so we don't have a lot of additional information yet. It is important to remember, in addition to wires from NYSEG, there is likely Verizon, there is Spectrum, there is the telephone company that went out of business 15 years ago and still has its wires up there. But we're working on the NYSEG piece. I just want to make it clear that I think everyone who has started to investigate this believes that the actual relocation of the wires will be well beyond the $530,000 allocated to this project. However, we can make provisions so that in the future, we don't have to dig things up to do that type of work. Those were the concerns that I took notes on. If someone has another concern that you think that I missed, I would like to get the board's sense, and I don't want to wordsmith in the meeting, but the sense that with a final pass around of this for any any tweaking of the language, that we can follow up with folks like Ellen and Peg and others who were at that meeting so that they know that they were heard and that we intend to move forward with their input.
Have you seen it previously?
No, I haven't shown it to
No, you
anyone but the
haven't.
board.
Yeah. It has had a couple little tweaks, but it's, I think it summarized it pretty well. And we did hear everybody's concerns. I had a discussion with someone not involved with property there, and they said, you should definitely always be doing work in the spring. And I said, you're forgetting climate change, because there was a time that you would not have an asphalt plant open past November 1st. We have actually done paving towards the end of November, and the plants are staying open because, and we've had green Christmases. The weather has stayed warmer in the fall, so it does give us a little more cushion. I suspect that this could run into the end of June, and we all saw when the local camps open up that we immediately kind of get hit. But I think that the spring is the best way to look at this, knowing that in advance.
The longer term,
Mhm.
taking up the longer change versus the
Yeah.
people who are here for 3 or 4 days or.
So if there is a sense that this is on the right track and we can approve it with any wordsmithing to come
Mhm.
in the next couple days by email, I would make that motion.
Cindy makes the motion. I'll second. All in favor?
The last thing that I want to bring up from the minutes, you'll notice under equipment, it says Mr. Hoteling stated that at the June Board of Trustees meeting, he will request that money be moved to purchase the new 550 truck. In the past, we have always done a permissive referendum. Christie had informed us that because this was in the budget, we didn't need to do a permissive referendum to move money from reserve.
But if it's in a reserve,
Designated for this purpose, you don't have to do a permissive referendum.
Well, it's designated for street
village
equipment.
It's village equipment, so this could have been anything. We can, it doesn't hurt to do it in the packet as a permissive.
Okay,
It's already on the finance
so
agenda.
I just wanted to explain what that was.
All right.
Can I ask a question about
Mhm.
when I read this, about the village parking permit stickers that Rich Sternberg had mentioned?
Wasn't the charter was dropped.
Rich believes
He
very
just
strongly.
pointed out that it got a ticket. The prosecuting attorney decided that it was smarter not to fight about.
Okay, but it says that they're illegal to be placed on the windshield above.
This is
An interpretation issue, and
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, if you look at it, having been the prosecutor, if you look at it. At least from where I sit in a vehicle, it is, the hood still appears behind it. You can't have anything that obstructs.
Right.
Yeah, tags actually have been ticketed. So it's really a question of people thinking about it, and using common sense. I don't think you're gonna see, at least for a few more years, anyone getting prosecuted. for
Well, Been looking at people's vehicles, including my own, and I have it up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the reason that we stipulate having it there is for the ease of our parking enforcement officers, so that when he or she is on the sidewalk, it's
They
very
can see
easy
it.
to see
Right.
without having to walk around every vehicle to check the back window. Richard believes very strongly in this, and every other year he brings it up.
oh, okay. I hadn't heard that before.
that it? Motion to accept streets committee report
We moved to-
by Audrey, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Buildings committee, you have the minutes. Nothing really much to report. I can have a very recent report. We had a nice little reception for our history room upstairs and a nice gathering of people who came. So I'm pleased that that's all a lot material was moved in, including some of Hugh McDougall's books and some collection material. We had people come and bring things tonight. And Will is going to be working with Bruce McLeish to look at kind of a collections policy, which any of us who've worked with small historical societies and all know it's critical, so that you don't end up just like a pack rat with materials. So we're off to a really wonderful professional start on our history room. Very exciting. I don't think there was were there any other questions or comments about the motion to accept the buildings committee report by Audrey, second by George, all in favor? Treasurer's report was sent via email. It looks like a lot, but it's everything you want to know is in there. This is a consent agenda. And I will highlight a few things, but essentially, if you have any questions on anything, please ask. So the sales tax report was in your packet. We had $441,527 in our last fiscal year, with the month of May yet to be reported in. And we had budgeted 445. So we're obviously hitting our 25-26 budget. Probably will be maybe 20 to 25,000 over. So all good. There is in the packet that was mentioned a permissive referendum for the village equipment reserves, 36,500 for the purchase of a 2027 Ford F-550. We did put money in the budget for it, but this money is needed to support the total cost of the vehicle. You have invoices and vouchers, and I do want to call your attention to, I felt like we were panicking major league on our lifeguards, and we have quite a list of lifeguards. I don't think it hurt us, though, to increase the hourly rate as we did last time, and all pretty exciting. One sad note under personnel will be under the consent agenda. You'll be accepting the resignation letter from Park Supervisor John Gramp, effective 9/11/26. And so with that acceptance tonight, we will post the Park Supervisor position. Is there any questions on the consent agenda on your in your packet? No? Would you like to make a motion?
I move to accept the consent agenda on the finance.
George, you second it? All in favor?
A question,
Uh-huh.
that excludes I had a couple of questions on the insurance.
They are, yeah, I'm going to bring those over, but they weren't on the consent agenda, so I'm doing the consent agenda.
Yep.
We've had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain on that, Jenna, because there was a reimbursement for when we panicked and ran out of food at Welcome Home Cooperstown, and I'm being reimbursed for the grocery bill. For those hot dogs for that hungry crowd.
Burgers, oh my God.
I know. We were panicking, weren't we? Yes, so on your additional agenda items, we have a couple finance items. Invoice number 2606 from Mathia Coughlin for the Lakefront Concert Series posters and postcards in the amount of $535. Audrey, would you like to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve it, and I just want to say one thing. And I don't know if we'd be eligible, but the SUNY Oneonta Print Shop, which actually I believe Mathia is an employee there. We could probably get it printed pretty cheap.
You did it pretty cheaply. Very appreciated.
No, but we could.
Oh, you
I
could do
don't- I
it.
don't know though if
Oh.
we would be eligible
I don't know
as
either.
as a government entity. You do, okay, a nonprofit.
But
Right.
those parks could do
The
that.
Friends,
I know. Pay for this
this exact thing. what
Right.
Yeah.
we're Looking at here. Because the coffee shop, it would have been for design charges for like 150, so
Right.
the 386 is what the training charges are, we're nearly double that at the coffee shop.
Mhm.
This is what she does through her own company online, at SUNY would probably be.
It would be
And I think the
cheaper,
friends of the
I'm sure.
party, to be like, can you print, it'll go through you and you'll get reimbursed by the village, and they wanted to, they preferred us to keep the money local. So I don't, I consider SUNY on the local, honestly, it's in the county.
Yes, but the Friends of the Park use.
But it's
free
okay,
shop.
that was their feedback to me, I thank them for considering their consideration.
Thank you, Randy.
Under the budget. I mean,
Yeah,
it's under the
great.
budget.
Yeah, no, it is great. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about that. I'm just stating that it could.
Can I ask a strategic,
Oh, okay, Joe.
a strategic question about using paper materials as opposed to so much now being online and through different media? These are for the posters we're gonna put around the village advertising the concerts?
Yes, the posters and then actually mailers to all of them.
Right, yes.
Okay, and that's a big mailing.
That's the one that's.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve, second by Cindy, all in favor? And then we have our NYMER insurance proposal. That was emailed because it's a bit of a packet.
Right.
It is about a $10,000 increase. That's kind of standard. We have, this was all reviewed with Mike Hutchinson at Finance with all three Finance Committee people there. We are still getting, shall I say, factored in is our losses. They obviously, like any insurance company, if you have a loss, your rate can go up. Well, they have a 5-year loss record. NYMER, remember, is a insurance reciprocal. Our insurance is so reasonable compared to prior to our connecting with NYMER. But in 2021, we had a serious water issue at the wastewater treatment plant that damaged 3 pumps. And that was a $221,000 insurance claim. And that is going to be, so in December of this year, it will finally be 5 years, but it doesn't affect the premium we're paying now. But next year, that was the bulk of our big claims. And that will finally be off next year. And we'll probably see that impacting the premium. So I will move that we approve the NYMER insurance proposal for July 1 to June 30th.
Second, I have a
Mhm.
discussion point. I emailed people before the meeting. Going through it, I noticed that we don't have in that initial list of where a property is and then the subsequent section describes it. We don't have any coverage for our parking lots and our parking lot structure. We don't have any coverage for our facility out there on the easement, the parking, the filtration system, well, let me just what I wrote to everyone, the insurance proposal appears not to cover the infrastructure the village has developed at the blue or other lots, for example, trolley shelters, assuming they belong to the village, or on the easements associated with the blue lot intermodal transportation project. The water, electrical conduit for recreation facilities, snow shelf parking lot and subsurface filtration system, and drainage system for the softball field. So I don't know.
I think it is covered. And in fact, it's not
on the list. There's a disclaimer. That's why I'm bringing it up. There's a very specific list of things that are covered in the very first, or maybe third page of the document. And I went and correlated the item number and looked at what they referred to later on in the document, and it didn't cover any of these. So that's all I can say.
This actually came up for discussion at Finance because if you noticed in the document, we are additionally insured for property we don't own as well. All the trolley lots are covered, but we obviously don't own the yellow lot. And so we list I think they still have it as the Farmers Museum on their policy. And we list the red lot, which is the Clark Foundation. So all the trolley lots, we discussed why that happens, that we don't own that property, but we cover it. And the blue lot was definitely on there and covered. It's in there.
So we're listed as an additional insurance.
On those others, but all the trolley lots, that was
Okay, it
confirmed.
doesn't, I mean, I couldn't find, it's.
Yeah, the blue
document
lot
doesn't
seems
say
to be
it.
missing.
All right, well, we can double check that, but
And our easement isn't covered. So it's that area out there that is not covered on this policy. If it's, and I was struck by the strong language that said, if you're not on here, you're not covered.
The number of parking kiosks is also incorrect. I believe we have 21. And it says 16.
on Main Street,
And on Main Street and in Doubleday Field.
they might be separate for double, or are they summing it?
It just says 16 parking meters under 17.
17.
I couldn't find any other meters. And I say that because in the streets minutes, you saw that our meters are aging.
Right. There are 3 in Doubleday, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So we'll ask on that. So there's 17 on the street.
The item number is 17-1 and it says 16 parking meters.
16, so
And I believe we have 18 on the street and 3 in.
18th Street, 3 in Doubleday. All right. We will follow up on that and the blue lot coverage.
And the easements. I don't know what, I call it the intermodal project, all of that is associated with it, but it's not on here.
This insurance policy needs to be improved for us to have our liability and all our coverage by July 1. So I move that we approve the NYMER insurance proposal, which was emailed and shared with everyone. Is there a second? And we will follow up on the items we just mentioned. So motion made and seconded, all in favor?
I had already seconded it. And then we had this discussion.
Okay, but we changed it to make sure that we get that information as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it was approved. Moving on, that's the end of. No, we have a couple more things under additional finance. One is we have an employee who is essentially working out of title, which means he's an operator, but he's functioning to a degree as our chief. And our contract requires a 15% hourly rate increase for working out of title. So I will move that our wastewater treatment plant operator, Scott Foltz, have an increase of $4 and 0.50225 an hour increase to comply with our union contract. Second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
And the next thing, some of you who've been on the board for a little bit longer, Cindy probably remembers this, that our power for 3 Mile runs through private lines, and we have agreement. There was an agreement signed in 2020 that essentially we pay through a separate meter, but the meter is on private property. The poles were all private property, installed poles, et cetera. And we pay the electric bill. That system worked well for probably 2021, 22, and 23. And then the property manager changed, and we realized we hadn't gotten any bills in 24, 25, and 26. So we spoke to the owner, and we have received most of the bills. The 24 have not been submitted at this point. And it is an amount covering, so it covers like 16 months. And the total for electric use at 3 Mile during that time was $2,071.13. And it's, again, we have a contract that was signed in 2020. So we owe this, we just hadn't received the bills to pay for it. There will be one like that for 2024. We've discussed with the owner, because we thought we had a system working. It wasn't our fault that we didn't get the bills. And it appears we may be able to move forward and have the account put in our name, and it'll just come to us directly, and we won't have to have that intermediary, which is great going forward. So I move we pay the invoice of $2,071.13 for electric at 3 Mile. Second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Do we have these items, Ellen?
What?
What the last two items seem to be not.
Yeah, I don't have.
Yeah,
it.
No, that it brought them up. No,
Okay.
this came
Okay.
in this afternoon.
Okay,
And in order to pay and try and resolve this issue, we decided not to wait to the end of July.
that's fine.
Yeah, but here's the invoice if you would like to see it. It's the voucher. This can go with it. And we have all the bills here, if anybody would like to see that. All right. All right,
Thanks.
we approved the consent agenda. Motion to accept the finance report
Moved.
by Cindy, second by George, all in favor. Moving on, grants and projects. Welcome Home Cooperstown. Our next Welcome Home Cooperstown will be Tuesday, July 7th, and it is going to be a busy little night, and particularly because we end like a little early so that people can mosey on down the street to the wonderful lakefront concerts, etc. So we're going to be burying the time capsule. And the paper has indicated that they're going to be doing a story on the men's shed and the capsule that they are doing. And slowly we're getting some material. But if you're involved in any organization that wants to put something in particular, we're looking for letters from organizations, on their letterhead saying maybe some of the activities they've done in this America 250 year and what they hope when this capsule is opened on the tricentennial of our country 50 years from now. So yeah, please deliver the material, email the material, whatever it is. And not only will that be occurring, but the Glimmerglass Festival. And that's always a fabulous program because they bring singers, sometimes young American artists, to perform pieces from the shows from the 4 shows they're presenting this summer. And there's nothing more delightful than being out on the front lawn, hearing that and seeing people exit the Hall of Fame and hear an aria coming from over there. It's just absolutely delightful. So hopefully you can make it. The Opera Guild will be doing the refreshments. We basically talked about our New York Forward project and the agreement that we'll probably move the Pioneer Alley to the spring. New York Forward, we got that contract September 30th, 2025, and they do, because all these projects are supposedly shovel ready, they do make you do a schedule and propose it. And we had proposed the Pioneer Alley, then moving to Fowler and Hoffman. At that time, the other project that is a public project under New York Forward was the sidewalk on Grove Street. And we had moved that towards the end because we thought, well, we don't know how quickly the Grove project will move forward. We certainly don't want to be putting in a sidewalk with construction equipment, driving over it and cracking it right away. Well, the project at the Grove has certainly moved forward. So we're looking at moving the Grove Street sidewalk project forward to try potentially to do that this fall so that we can show some progress. They are, you literally fill out a form and say exactly how you're scheduling this and every step you're taking towards meeting that goal. So that is our proposed, probably next application will cover all that. Round 9, Restore New York. We, of course, still have our $1 million. And I know the developer is working with the lawyer for the property owner for site control, and that seemed to be moving along. HCR is really pleased with the progress. They said it's not easy to get these 9% credits, tax credits, but they are really very positive about this project and are facilitating the process. So we can, they'll be submitting a new application for 9% HCR credits in August, September. And hopefully next February, we'll see the positive announcement. Project Fairy Spring, you've heard about the Friends of the Parks component. Remember, the village is taking on the caretakers quarters. We have Herman Engineering. We presented all the plans to the town of Middlefield and they thought it looked pretty good, but there is a planning board meeting at the first week in July, which unfortunately Alex cannot go to and I can't go to. And I think Susie wasn't able to go to, but we've asked Alex to connect with them and answer all their questions. They did have questions because we're putting in 2 ADA bathrooms. They were worried about, the evaluation of the septic, and it was pointed out that this isn't, you're not adding more bodies per se. You're essentially the little toilets in the woods in the little house, the cute house, will probably not be as used as the bathrooms in the public bathroom in the caretaker's quarters and the pavilion. So he's working out all the data and he has the capacity of the septic system, all that material from Mitch, and we'll be moving forward with that. Everything's going well with our DOS LWRP, Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan grant. We've completed 2 payment requests. We, of course, because of the budget, we were in a blackout period and nothing was processed for a while, but we've been told that funds, have been moved forward. All our documentation and certification is in place. So we're hoping for some reimbursement on that moving forward. I do want to just report to everyone because, and about this because we had that meeting earlier this month to approve the resolution relative to the water meter GIGP grant. If you recall, we approved that resolution. That had to be submitted by June 12th, and it was. They put it in for a $1.375 million project. The grant, because of the local payment that we would have on that, would be $1,031,250. So we would have, if this grant is awarded, about a $250,000 cost for the replacement of all our meters with smart meters. So hopeful, and actually we appreciated Delaware moving forward on that because June 12th, it was no longer an end of July CFA. It got moved to June 12th. You had to have an engineering grant. Unfortunately, we'd had them apply in 22, so they were able to move forward on it quickly. And the other one that came up after our May meeting and had a application deadline before this meeting was our Achieve grant. We did mention that Mohawk Valley did receive Achieve funding. They were one of the economic councils to receive $33 million this year. And we were in that as not a anchor project, but a kind of supporting project. And we've been allocated 1 million, but it doesn't mean they just give you 1 million. We had to go in and fill out a CFA. The project was because we know we've applied for Doubleday funding like this before, and this is to replace, remember, the drainage and the netting and many improvements at Doubleday. So it's a $1.781 million project with a 781,000 local match on that. So hopefully we might, that we know as it was kind of sprung on us and it wasn't super easy. They actually opened the CFA. I thought, well, this is easy. They got it going. I went ahead and filled in a bunch. Cindy filled in a bunch. We got letters of support from people and it was submitted. It was due at 4 o'clock today. And we actually submitted over the weekend.
When will we hear about this as well as the water meter?
The Achieve, remember, we essentially got.
Okay.
This is just a way, in a sense, that they codify it,
And
get you
okay.
this, and so we'll end up with a contract. It'll the whole 9 yards. It'll go. The other, I can't tell you when the GIGP is because I bet you it would be at best the fall before you might hear.
Like late fall, early
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
It'll be hard to tell. This is an election year, so that might change timing of some of the announcements.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
is there a public hearing?
Yep. So, and the last thing here is CFA applications that are due at the end of July. Are there any particular ones? I haven't, there's a couple I looked at, but I haven't settled, but we can set a public hearing now, and we should, for July 27th at 6:30 to any that we kind of work up.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing to apply for funding through the consolidated funding application.
Second by Audrey, all in favor? That, I think, is it. All right, moving on, we have,
Can we, is it appropriate to slot in this grant? It's under the topic of grants, but not to the village. This is the one that's on the supplemental agenda that Jake
I
circulated.
got the grant one. I thought under, oh, you don't, I was going to do it under WSC when we talk about WSC.
Sure.
Moving on, Parks Board.
Parks Board. So we had a very good meeting. I think everything is going pretty well at the parks and very happy about the situation with caretakers. We now have 2 caretakers at Berry Spring and a lot of lifeguards, which is terrific. We do have some things to discuss for Lakefront Park, and I know Randy is here. Did you want to discuss and bring to the board the, we have, I think in our, the map of
Yeah, the
the
vending
food
map.
trucks, the vending map for
Yeah.
board approval for the Lakefront concert series.
Yeah, so we do have, you know, I think they came here last year, they got more money up in the budget, and it was growing, like, all the attendance numbers is growing, and so we added, last year, you know, we averaged about 350 people, and it's great. And so there was one along lines with the 2 main food trucks, so we've had 2 main food trucks and then some other electronic vendors. So we added another main food truck. You can see on the map on the left side, so on the left hand side, backpacks has been there for about 2 years. So now we want to have, they, Busy People Cafe, they have a similar, behind, but I saw trailer behind. So, those spots over there are nice and long, so I think that's the best place for them. On the right hand side, we have David Neal there, and we have, looking at the red and yellow, great ones, bubble tea person. So what we're adding this year, there's 2 new lawn vendors, Overlord Charcuterie Games, down on this. And then the band has never really had any spots, right? So I basically add all that up, it takes that overall off the show, where we've been taking about half of it, in years past, again, without any spots for the band, which sometimes can be. Slot all that in there, plus two spots for the lawn vendors, but they didn't do those things for all spots. These were moved down by a spot because of the move back. See there.
Yep.
Where kind of where the party is, and the kayak rack is now shifting down. Everything by a spot. So. This is the cleanest solution, and it did really think about it a lot. You know, so again, what we had half of those spots on, people had backpacks over on Pioneer Street, each months, before. And then half of that side of Fish Road, the park side of the like, now we come on board, which is 11 spots. And what that is what the signs they have are, so that's what the codes and signs say, hardly after 4 p.m. Would be best if that were 3 p.m. But just when we keep it at 4 p.m. The thing is, because the food trucks are ready to get in there. Sometimes people don't come back to their car, and in one car sort of messed up the whole row. But so I guess this the map is kind of one thing, just hoping to get it or that to a lot of it, but I think just said that. So I think that, you know, this is the best solution. And then right now, it will all be blocked off with signs that say park after 4 p.m. I think particularly for these American 250 that after Friday, July 3rd, that blocking the street off that 3 o'clock would be best. The signs can still say 4, but I need the fire department / police block off my here in Fishbook. New traffic coming down, you know. That's it for one. I'm hoping that can be 3 o'clock.
So Andy, that's just one of my questions, because in addition to the food trucks, which I think is great,
Yeah,
on July 3rd,
right.
there is also, you know, a significant fire department and EMS presence in this area as well, due to the number of people who are gonna be there and the fireworks and like, so have they seen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We'll go to the state. Yeah, I did send it to Mitch, Jazz. There.
Yeah.
So, and I did even give a heads up. So, okay, because I learned that last year. I didn't really realize that's what happened, so.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, okay, there's things are happening, but it all worked out, you know, but I did realize that a lot of down issues.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one question? How would the lawn vendors work? That's their parking, they'll be on the lawn?
Yeah, they have a car.
Okay. But that's for their parking space.
That's where they park, let's say. Nice, they have spotting, so they're meeting there, or they have, the one spot, 3.
I saw something in there about, donations to the Friends of the Park. What,
Oh, yeah, that's.
do they make these vendors, do we just invite? Or is there,
Yeah, do they pay a fee?
do they pay?
Separate time.
Yeah, they fill out vending applications through Marcia and they pay to be done.
They pay $100 for the season.
For the season?
Yeah,
They do all their.
so that's
Pretty good
700 plus,
deal.
plus the base.
What,
That's
sorry?
$800.
And you're wondering where the money goes.
Yeah,
Gonna be appropriated.
Now I'm making money, but I mean, it's a serious question that I would like you to ponder, it's no big deal, but the budget, what you gave me, I'm operating within what you gave, so. But in the future, you know, funnel that money to the Lake Fund Council budget, that would be great,
It doesn't always work that way. It's like we rent Doubleday Field.
I've managed budgets, that's why.
Yeah.
This, you know, probably.
No, it's all sort of general fund.
There is a secondary thing where people have asked to donate to the community. And so I sort of kind of like put them off just because I didn't really
No.
like, where does that money go? But because they really have to do it, well, I want to donate the money to make sure this not, you know, like, so. I'm wondering if somehow, I don't know.
They can donate to
Right.
the village and it's held in trust and agency for the lakefront concerts. We do have that. And you know, a village is the same as really a 501c3. It's tax deductible if you donate to it. Yeah. The other way you could do it. Yeah.
Right.
You can also do, you know, ask the Friends of the Parks, because I know they accept funds for, you know, certain things.
Their sign down there with the QR.
Yeah, yeah.
I did ask them, like, do you want to have a thing and donate? They weren't interested. So I'm like, well, I might just put out a, yeah, so it can also go with
Okay.
that.
All right.
It's fine, even though they didn't. Just kidding. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Randy,
you,
for
Randy.
putting this together.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So,
And we'll also have a table there for the 4th of July, American Revolution. Do we know where that's gonna go?
What?
Will Walker's table?
Yeah, but you don't just set up, but him and the actual deal with those, but. Who's over in Falls, whatever the table, so I just told him, you know.
Where?
Follow the line, you know.
Okay.
By the spot.
Right. Great, thank
Can
you.
I ask one thing? The charging for the face painting, was that a sort of like an kid activity at one time? Because it wasn't charged.
It was free. Paid, and, right, so, so I said, okay, hey, on the Friends of Parks. Hey, and then, but she basically said, I can make so much money on that I'll just pay the $100 fee. So it saved us $250, what ended up happening, you know, and she's just a
And then-
vendor like any of the others.
So then she charges for the face
Yeah,
painting.
So she
Yeah.
is.
But she pays the $100 fee.
She paid $100.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was really like, you know, I mean, like I said, it was nobody, none of us, meaning the village of the Friends of the Parks.
Yeah.
Paying money to attract people back, but.
Yeah.
So she then, you know, I thought about it for a second, she's just like the other vendors, they're paying $100 and they're, you know. So we're generating, you know, good circulation of money within our community.
All right.
Okay.
Do we need to formally?
Yes, we
approve
do,
the-
because we've never closed Pioneer Street like this for this event. And obviously, I think we really have to get this out there because we are restricting parking a bit, quite a bit. So we have to think about.
Fatbacks was definitely there last year.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just adding the rest, so it's doubling the spaces on from 2 to 4 on Pioneer.
Uh-huh.
Pioneer Street's open, it's, again, we're talking about the Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then over on Fish Road, instead of 6 spots, we're basically taking all 11 spots.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just so people know it's going to be a little more restricted.
Yes, again, it's a good idea, I mean, then the guys put the signs out, again, you know, the way we.
Mhm, mhm,
I mean, we could put it on Facebook so that people are aware.
mhm.
Okay.
So is there a motion?
I move to accept the proposed Lakefront Concert Series vending map as presented by Randy.
And close Pioneer,
It's Pioneer
Pioneer Street.
at 3:00. Is that what we- That's 4.
Just closing the parking.
I thought the fire, I think the fire department has done that in the past. We've never voted on it that I recall.
Okay,
We haven't, but they have, we have to make sure they know, because they, yeah, what, they have tended to have handicap spaces there for people.
Right, can I be clear? We are not closing Pioneer Street, are we? We're just assigning these parking spaces.
We're not closing Pioneer or Fish Road on Tuesday night.
Okay, I,
It's just the,
Blocking.
just July 3rd, as it's
Right,
traditionally happened.
but the fire
Yeah.
department does, they manage that anyway, right?
Yeah.
so,
All right. So you got a motion made?
Yeah.
So you guys approve the map, I'll make sure Billy knows, and then Jess, okay, so that was approved. And they got my email, I already kind of asked for the 3:00 thing, so I'll just ask Billy like that, what time you got planned.
Okay,
Shut down.
so motion is made, but it was seconded? by Cindy, all in favor?
Aye. Okay, and while we're on Lakefront, Mickey Reichmeyer attended our meeting and gave us an update on work that Lake and Valley Garden Club is doing at the park. And in the additional agenda items, you will see a mock-up of one of the signs that they are working on to replace at the buffer strip. And we would like to get the board's input and approval on it. I will say that it's missing an apostrophe at the top.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who gets.
And there was some question about a credit line. I've got some proposed language. I haven't run it by Lake and Valley Garden Club, but I think that there are a number of entities that need to be acknowledged. And there's also a discussion of perhaps putting a QR code on there that could lead people to probably the Otsego Lake Association website, because they seem to have a very stable situation with their website. The last thing you want to do is put a QR code on there and the URL changes. And maybe we don't want a QR code, but it could lead them to more information about the lake. The credit line, this is being paid by a grant, through a grant from OLA. And so the credit line could read something to the effect, this sign made possible by a grant from the Otsego Lake Association to the Lake and Valley Garden Club, which maintains the buffer strip garden for the village of Cooperstown, so that all three entities are somehow acknowledged. We don't want a long text. I would suggest it be italicized and in smaller font to sort of set it apart, but we wanted you to see it before anything
What's
goes
the
forward.
size of this, and is it replacing the kind of damaged
Yeah.
pollinator sign?
Yeah,
So it's
the post is gonna stay the same, or the mount
Okay.
is staying the same, so.
All right. I move that we approve going forward with this, with final design critique, run by the Parks Board.
Second.
Second by, Cindy, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And then lastly, there is another additional item that you have received. Jean Dewey presented an accounting. This is with regard to the dog park, which there's really been no movement per se on the easement issue, and working with the Board of Education on the easement and what could be done there, whether that could be used as a dog park. But in any case, Jean presented a sort of timeline of events and presented here for the board to have a chance to read it. And I just want to put it in the record. I don't know, Joe, as a member of the subcommittee of the Parks Board working on the dog park, if you wanted to say anything or speak to this
Yeah.
letter.
I would say this was a very thoughtful piece by Jean Dewey, a member of the Parks Board. We've done a lot of great work in this village, and I don't include me as one who has done the great work, but there have been many initiatives that this board has been quite successful with. And this initiative to develop a dog park has been pending for at least 3 years. I think it was back to 2018 in some form. But this is one that a lot of time, thought, effort has been spent on. And it involved a long history of the development of our transportation project and the recreation field that was to be part of it. And the easements that the village obtained from this Cooperstown Central School for those purposes. When this latest effort to develop a dog park arose, the we had to focus quite intently on what the nature and extent of the village's interest was in the easement it had purchased for $42,000, and then it invested several $100,000 in the development of. When we approached the Board of Education with the notion that our intent was to develop a dog park, the we ran into quite a lot of difficulty in communicating what we were trying to say and getting a responsive school board to address the things we were raising, believing that we had a vested property right to use the property for a recreation purpose that included a dog park. What our village attorney ran up against was his attempt to contact the school board's attorney, resulted in some miscues, some failures entirely to communicate. But we learned at the very end of this process, and I'm sad to say it is apparently at an end. We learned that a year ago in March 16th, at the direction of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education attorney reviewed the easement documents and issued a letter opinion to the school. What's interesting about that is he did it in an opinion that, in my view, I'm an attorney as well as a board member, was not reasoned. It cited no authority, and took a categorical position against not only our inability to use this property as a dog park, we didn't have the right to use it for anything but highway purposes. And we have never used the property for highway purposes. There's no road that was ever constructed on it. So the upshot of this is, according to his reasoning, we have no easement at all, even though we have made the investment in this property, and we have certainly had an understanding for 15 years that we did own something. It turns out that after that March 16th letter opinion was written, our attorney wrote to the school board 6 weeks later and said, hey, we are now talking about this dog park. We would like your views on this. And we never heard from the school that they had already written an opinion adverse to what we were seeking. And it wasn't until June 3rd or June 5th that we finally, through Martin, our village attorney, and contact between me and a Board of Education member, discovered that this thing existed at all. And it was finally authorized to be shared with the village. I guess we got it on the 5th of June. And that's when we learned what this opinion had to say. So in the meantime, the superintendent of schools has resigned. There's an acting superintendent who is determined not to take an action on something of this nature. And so we are now left with a board that's got to have a subsequent interim superintendent appointed, and thereafter do a search, and thereafter get a superintendent in place. And maybe something about this could be discussed. But in the meantime, which is what's the most concerning to me, is that we now have a legal opinion by the Board of Education that says we are not entitled to use our easement for our snow shelf onto which we move the village streets snow so that it doesn't go into the lake, but filters through land into the Susquehanna River. We can't use the parking lot, and we can't use the field that we developed at a considerable cost for any recreational purpose. So it's a very disappointing outcome, and I don't know what'll happen next, but I salute everybody I mean, people go back on this, I think, to 2018, but some of you remember Sydney Sheehan, who was the Parks Board Chair, and she took this up, and so many others did too, including Audrey. And I especially want to commend Jean Dewey for all the work she did to bring this to a point where we thought we had a reasonable, rational justification for a recreational use of this easement, and now we have nothing as far as the school is concerned. Now, having said that, whether the school is ever going to challenge our right to use any of that property, whether the school is going to try to sell the property, how they'll do that while they're still encumbered by our easement, I don't know how that happens. But we are a village and we are a school district. We should have been able to do much better than we've done. So I just want to report the disappointment amid all the great successes we're having and the great work that we're doing, including with our summer concert series. But I think this was warranted memorialization, and I do ask that Jean Dewey's letter be included in the minutes of this meeting.
I think it is disappointing when I look back and, you know, in April of last year, by May, we had an answer from the other property owner and just never could get an answer from this property owner. It's clear, you know, it left confusion on all sides.
Yeah.
I will point out that the other property owner did not challenge our title to the property.
You know, I think dog park aside, the school's decision to interpret this immense legal document that many of us worked a very long time to craft that allowed for multiple uses that were recreational and environmental and community oriented is really disheartening.
And I don't know, legally jeopardizing, I don't know. I don't know where we go from here with that. My view, and this will be my last point, my view is that we should not let that opinion letter stand. Now that we are on notice of their views, I think we should call them on it, say, no, here's our reasoned opinion on the nature and extent of our right to this property, and just let it be the last document on the pile. We don't have to threaten litigation. We don't have to do anything, but I don't think that this opinion letter that was given to us should go unanswered. So maybe the motion is to direct that we prepare a response to this. And I'll make that motion that we prepare a response to the opinion letter with the purpose of stating our views that the easement is valid, in effect, and for the purposes.
Has everyone on the board seen the opinion letter?
I don't think we have.
I haven't seen it.
I emailed it to everybody.
Emailed it.
When was it emailed? I'm sorry.
June 5th,
June 5th, you sent it.
and to Martin as well.
Okay. Was it in the board? It wasn't, was it in the board packet? No, we're not.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. I will
I don't
look
think
back. I'm
The
sorry.
Parks Board,
I'm sorry.
I don't think the Parks Board members have seen it.
Yeah.
They may not have, I sent it
Right,
to you.
because it's June 5th, it was after our
And
meeting.
it was after, yeah.
Why don't we defer a decision
Yeah.
on that till it's been shared with
Okay.
the letter and make sure it's in our packet
Mhm.
next month, so we actually have something in front of us.
Okay,
Okay.
geez, I thought I copied you on it too, maybe. We'll be sure to get
send
it to you, Jenna, sorry
Yeah.
about that. And I'll withdraw the motion for now, as that's our course of action for next
Mhm.
month.
All right.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Is that the end of Parks?
That is the end of the,
Great job.
yeah.
I want to point out that Audrey was commended by the Lake and Valley Garden Club at their annual meeting because she has worked so well with them on their work for the buffer strip. That's something that's very near to dear to them. And Audrey has been very supportive of their efforts, at the same time representing the village. So you did a great job.
Thank you. It's nice work that they're doing, and they're being very thoughtful about what they plant.
Yes.
How it happens, so. that's
Very
all
thoughtful.
great.
All right, motion to accept the Parks Board report by George, second by Joe, all in favor?
I,
Moving on, Cindy, you want to do community environment?
Yes, so in terms of our seed distribution, while we didn't have seeds up in the history room tonight, we have had them across the hall on the counter. They were distributed at Baccalaureate. The farmer's market has distributed seeds for us. And I will be taking them to the library's ice cream social tomorrow. So if you haven't gotten your seeds, by all means, you've missed an opportunity, but we will continue to give those out. Then we'll take a hiatus during July and August when it's really too hot to plant and then pick up again in the fall. You have yours, right, Patty? Your seeds. I know. And the only other thing I'll mention, we had hoped to have a draft of our 22 main heating and cooling project for the 19th, which I would have distributed to you to at least take a peek at over the weekend. They ran into some issues getting some of the utility data they needed, and they promise it tomorrow. So we'll see.
That it?
Yep.
Motion to accept community and environment report by Audrey, second by Ellen, all in favor?
Aye.
Water and Sewer Board minutes.
a couple of things to report on. The letter from Mr. Hay, I did not come up at our Water and Sewer Board meeting, but it obviously is in our packet. And the question being asked, you'll recall there was a leak and an investigation, as I understand it, I've got to get this right. There was a potential leak from the main, and then there was discovered a leak on the lateral. That's the private property owner's responsibility. And this discussion came up, and it was, we do not have a final disposition that I recall of whether those costs of excavating to address the leak in the main versus the leak in the lateral were allocated as Mr. Higgs suggests we do. I just don't have that history in front of me, but it came up. So I don't know if this is an action item right now. We could take it up at our next Water and Sewer Board meeting and see if there is something to allocate to the village of this cost. What happened was the private contractor came and did the excavation.
Right.
And then this village paid the contractor.
Right.
And then now we are billing the property owner.
To make it a little more complete a picture, there was quite a bit of, shall I say, a communication chain.
Right.
And you have minutes of from May 13th, 2025, all the times it was sort of reviewed and discussed over a year ago. You have the first invoice that was sent on April 15th, 2025. There was a printout that he did not include, but literally communication chain that was of the notifications, etc. I do think this document that we're looking at here to have a homeowner sign when there's an issue like this will help resolve it. So this went on. He was invited to come to water and sewer department meetings. He never did. The reason this has come to a head, and this was pointed out when we did the tax relevy for all the people who hadn't paid their taxes. There were two water leaks that were on the owner's line and not on our main, and they were both added to the tax bill. Yeah.
So again,
I would take it back to water and sewer and go through it one more time. But as I said, the village board took the action to put
right.
the uncollected fee on the taxes.
Yeah. Second matter is, did Scott Holtz get his waiver from the civil service?
Yes, that was announced, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that was, because we hadn't heard that, and it was still a pending issue. That was announced tonight. Not any other time.
It went out, I don't know, it was like last week that that board met. Yeah,
Okay, oh, the civil service board met. Okay, yeah, that was unknown. I'm glad that's straightened out. And that's why we raised this out instead of lost them. So the next, I think, now, this, as I understand it, was taken care of, but when we did the line pigging exercise,
it was already paid, yeah.
And so Tommy took care of that. I assume the finance committee saw the invoice and cleared it, because I had not seen it. So when we
The
did the
water and
back,
sewer.
it was.
I can't tell you if it was or not. I can't remember and all that, but remember, you get all the invoices and everything that's paid. It's they come to you digitally in those two big files. This came up because someone was feeling that we need to have more of in documentation of the balance of our capital accounts and reserve accounts. You get that in your form. Our treasurer's department has created a double entry now to make sure everybody sees that. But that information is every month you see exactly what the finance committee sees.
So I think the next item on this is the draft agreement, and I don't know what people have to say about it. I think it's a good start, and it may be a good ending. I just wanted other people's input on this.
I would agree with you, Joe. I thought it was probably a good start, maybe a good ending. My response was that if something doesn't work with it, we can always amend it.
We
But
could, yeah.
it really is a great thing to have, and I think it's very informative.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it, if you want to tweak a little something, that's fine, but I'd love to approve it tonight because we already have another water leak.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Just before we vote, okay, I think I'm ready to vote.
All right. So motion made, seconded. All those in favor of approving this emergency excavation and leak investigation authorization, say aye.
Aye.
All right. There anything else on water and sewer?
I don't believe there is. What we're gonna try to do, and this overlaps with the Watershed Supervisory Committee. I think there's a recognition that the pigging of the line was long overdue, that the device that called the pig that we sent through the line came through shattered and in very bad condition. And we don't yet know how much we cleaned out of the line. Paul Lord, the part of the dive team from the BFS, was amazed that this intake screen was heavily encrusted with shells, and yet the plant itself wasn't suffering any loss of water, and the pumps weren't surging. But there is a concern that if there is not a more regular pigging of the line, and maybe a different procedure when we do it, that we could get into real trouble. The trap and the line could suddenly prove to be so badly clogged that we do have a problem that's much harder to solve. So I'd like to get together with the Water and Sewer Board, with Jake, with the Biological Field Station, and come up with a system that's going to satisfy the operator's needs, and it's going to satisfy the science gathering needs. And maybe, I know we have in our budget the purchase of more, I think 2 more pigs. And those maybe we should make 2 or 3 passes each time the system is open, rather than just run one through, because the diameter of the device is much substantially smaller than the diameter of the pipe. So it's a hit or miss as it um, rifles up the pipe to the entrance, to the intake site. And it may be better to just punch one through, when that comes out, a second and a third, and see if there's any diminution in the amount of material that's caught, and just get a better understanding of how clean or not the pipe is. So it seems simple enough to do, but we keep the plant down in operation for many hours, and the time that we do it is when there's the least water demand, and we've topped off all our water supply tanks. But I'm thinking another hour and a half, if it's a half hour for each pass, and we have 3 pigs and run them through, we might have a much better sense of but I want to talk to the technical people. I'm not suggesting that's the answer. So we're gonna do that, and that might entail then almost certainly doing it again next year around this time.
Can I ask, you said that it takes 4 to 5 hours to take the line?
Well, actually, it starts overnight, because they pump, they fill all the process everything they can, then they have to shut everything down because they're no longer taking in water.
Right.
They're getting ready to push water back up through the pipe and out, and so that is, have to open a substantial well, go down a ladder, and there are valves like this that with wrenches like this that have to be used to open, and
I'd like the discussion to sort of start at water and sewer and get our staff's opinion.
Okay.
I agree, it was successful, the pictures of the pig coming through. But what we also have to remember is we ended up paying Biological Field Station $750 for their equipment. We had like every operator at the plant on a Sunday.
Oh.
So this is overtime. We had Mitch there, because there's the potential. I do think we really have to take our staff's opinion highly, because they had not, and you alluded to it, they had not seen reduced flow, like this thing was clogging. It hadn't been done in like 6 years, and they had documents of what they were pulling through, and they hadn't seen reduced flow. So yes, probably more than every 6 years, but I think let's work in the water and sewer committee to try and determine what the staff feels might work best for them.
And there are two, it is an overlap between the watershed and it's an operational thing, and it's a science. We have our science commitment and obligation of the 9-element plan, and we have our authority to protect our water supply in the lake. I mean, all of these things come together, and it was a good meshing of the Biological Field Station and our staff. I mean, the cost, I think we can absorb, but the efficacy of the fellows working together, and Dennis Elliott came back out of retirement, and he was the one who was loading the pig, and really, so I think we also need to get a procedures manual in place so that there's some continuity in how you do this relatively rare exercise and the order in which you do it. So I think that's all I
have a water and sewer question, and that is, now that Scott has the waiver, do we need to formally recognize Jarrett's service to the village and also let him know that we do not?
It's been done
Need
because
services.
he invoices now for the next month, which would have been July 1. So essentially, we've been contracting with our former wastewater treatment plant operator, because he had a grade 4 license and we had a grade 4 plant. So it was when the classification changed, we were changed from a grade 4 to a grade 3. And once that happened, Scott, who has a grade 3, was fully qualified to operate our plant. Then there was also the issue of, the civil service waiver. He had a 6-month waiver, and then they granted, essentially he has a 2-year waiver now. So that,
And he's been notified. Your point was, should Eric be,
Should
Understood.
Should Jarrett be notified?
and you said he has been?
yes, yeah. Yes. We wanted to give him advance warning before he billed his
Yep.
July.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, motion to accept water and sewer. By George, second by Audrey, all in favor.
Aye.
Moving on to Watershed Supervisory Committee, and we have something on our additional agenda pertaining to the Mill Street Dam grant
Mhm.
application, which was emailed to everybody.
Right, so this grant application would be submitted by by the Soil and Water Conservation the division of the county. It wouldn't be a village permit application. It wouldn't be administered by the village, but it would involve an investigation of whether and how to improve the operating element of the dam for controlling the lake level and measuring flows. Ideally, there'd be a mechanical device rather than staff going up, lifting up platforms and placing them. And also instantaneous recording of flows would be a great benefit. So that there's going to, the grant is for an engineering study so that we could better manage the lake level. As you know, there are several competing demands. First is we have a water dilution requirement for the wastewater outfall. So that's a minimum flow. We also have demands to maintain the lake level at a high point at some point or a higher point and a lower point. And those can conflict. And so with the more finely managed discharge flow release mechanism, we might be able to conserve water. We're not going to increase storage. We're not talking about elevating lake level in any way, but it's just to more efficiently manage what we have. So that's what this grant would be about. And what we need is a recommendation or a statement of support from the Board of Trustees and an authorization for, if the grant is made, for engineers to enter our property, examine the dam, those related activities. So if I'm missing something, like that can be added to, but that's the idea. We would support the grant, we would be responsible for it. We would grant permission for the investigators to do their work on our property.
And we have no local match. We have no match.
No match on it.
Seagull Lake Association is covering the match.
Oh, they are.
I think from what you said, Joe, it's important to say that the engineers would have access to our property and would work with our staff.
Oh, yes, yes.
And what you should know that is, this is one of the CFAs that isn't due until July. So this is just really a draft. At this point, it may be tweaked, but so we're just,
Yeah, I noticed.
yeah, don't worry about the
There were some,
typos.
yes, there were typos.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was starting to make comments and then I thought, well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more the flavor.
yes.
All right, so motion is made, seconded by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask who's submitting the application?
That's the Soil and Water Conservation District for Otsego County. The official for that entity is part of our team on the watershed supervisor, Christos Galilopoulos. Let's see. Just to report in, I did speak to Jake today, our watershed coordinator, and we were discussing the two main tasks that we have in the watershed supervisory committee. The first is the septic inspections that are ongoing and the associated fee letter that has gone out. And the second is the 9-element plan, which has a deadline and which is we're working closely with contractors and scientists and partners to meet those deadlines. We seem to be on track for that. We're at the stage now where the 9-element plan schedule is calling for us to produce the a menu of best management practices that would cover activities in the watershed from agriculture to the built environment and how best to deal with stormwater, ditches, salt protocols, and so on. And those are now under review. We do have a menu of them and they're under review by the team and my understanding is that we are on schedule and Jake is working very diligently, coordinating all the different participants in that. The second task is, I think we're not where we want to be on, and that is in the septic inspections. The records that we're using are proving to be ever more problematic in terms of who owns what property. We had records that are listed for property owners alphabetically by name, that is a tax number. So once that property is sold, you're chasing around for a name that isn't there. Jake had a considerable work to do to review the mailing list that sent out the fee letter because there were redundancies and contradictions and so on that he had to sort through. And so I believe he will, I'm just reporting what he said, that this will be probably not where we want to be on the septic inspections, and we're going to have to address how to put ourselves in a better position to do that. Either the records cleanup. I don't know if we can do, as you say, fly the plane while you're trying to build it sort of thing, where we can get out in the field and do these inspections while we can, the weather that we have, and then still clean up our records so that when we get all this information together, it's going to be in a usable and reliable shape. So that's a lot of what he's contending with, and we'll talk about it more in the next watershed meeting, but I wanted to bring that to your attention.
The list.
Oh,
of-
I'm sorry, I just wanted to get in the. I want to lose a thought. Jake is also getting feedback, not too adverse, but there are a number of people who are criticizing the fee letter as another tax. And then there are some who are just coming in to talk about their system. So Jake is kind of the public facing person on this whole enterprise of the watershed. And so a lot of his time, or some of his time, is being taken up by public engagement. And my advice to him was, start the conversation. You're a great diplomat. Keep up with it. But at some point, say, please put what you have in writing, because the only way we can address this stuff is by reviewing a written record. We can't do things anecdotally. So I was trying to give him some protection from that kind of long-term or ongoing, persistent conversations with folks. I think that's it. I'm sorry, Ellen, go ahead. You had something to say.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, so you should know there were some issues with the database, and it surprised me because that was a work in progress. It did get kind of, I don't want to say mucked with, but there was a project involving students in identifying, putting GIS locations. And so there were a lot of fingers on the database pie. And it had to be kind of cleaned up for that. What they had added had actually created some duplicates within the system. And so when he came to do the mailing, he did have to do some of that. Again, we have, 300 and, what is it, 47 systems, and many of them, there were certain numbers. So we were always going to say, try and inspect a third, so about 110 or so a year. And some of those are as simple as show us that this holding tank was pumped, because there's not much inspection on a holding tank other than It's not leaking, you just have to show the records. So there, he's beginning with the ones that are the most, shall I say, out of date on that, and moving forward. I will report that the watershed fee has been coming into the village, so.
I think that's great. A couple of other things that we haven't had too much reaction that I know of, other than the correspondence received to the wakeboard vote law that we've enacted.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm missing something that has come into the office through Jenna or otherwise. But I've discussed the best management practices and the pigging of the line. I think, back on the septic tanks, the one thing that our science advisor, Kyoko mentioned to us, she'd been to a conference yeah, on Long Island, and this question of which for many, many years had only septic tanks and relying the aquifers that were being used for municipal water supplies. But there, the recommendation or the emerging recommendation is that we have advanced treatment systems be required in new developments or replace systems because of the intensity of use. We've seen as you drive up the lake now, the little camps now are 3 or 4 bedroom homes, and they're still sitting on the same little parcel of land. And so there are lots of issues with that. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I did take it up with Jake this morning too, that we've discussed this in the past, and I didn't forget to mention it. When we do real estate closings, Martin, the thought is that we would try to work with the county to get the county registrar, recorder of deeds, to require at closing for a complete closing package, a certification by the seller to the buyer that the septic system had been inspected and certified within a minimum time frame of the closing, not some old document.
I saw that in your minutes.
And I'm wondering, this is obviously a thing that has to be done through protocol, and I wouldn't be the one to approach the clerk, but I'm just wondering, what do we do to put together some kind of communication to the county that would generate a discussion?
First of all, Joe, anything can be recorded. We have a miscellaneous index. You can record anything, even if there is no index, so to speak, for that particular document. Right now, title companies don't require us to search that, but it's a mechanism if you have information you believe that should be on file. They don't docket it against the property. It's just you have to go to that particular index and see if the name of the owners is listed there. But I use it quite often if I come upon something that doesn't directly affect title, but I think it's something pertinent that someone 70 years in the future may want to know. I'll throw it in miscellaneous index. I could put you name it, the telephone book, if miscellaneous index, if I wanted to. So I don't think there's going to be any pushback from the clerk. I think it's probably something that's going to have to go through probably the bar itself in terms of making that a document that is required. Usually, the usual driver to that is your title carrier, that's the company that's insuring title. And right now, they don't have any obligation, but you certainly could say, we think this would be good, and if our bar, the property section of our bar association determined that's something that's of value, they could put out a notice to all the attorneys that practice saying, you know, the hard thing will be people from outside.
Right. So could we, if we had, looking at our state law that authorized our local law, could we pass a local law that would cover, which applies to all the septic systems, which you already have authority over, that would require that documentation? Because I think if we don't do it, it becomes discretionary and some will do it and some won't. So I'm just trying to find a way to regularize what we want to happen. And if we need the authority of the law to say it, then the bar association can say, well, this is what the law says, so we're teaching you, members of the bar, this is what you have to do, and the county clerk will say, the law requires it, so where is it? And it could be filed as you want in the miscellaneous index, but it's got to be there, it's not a choice. So I don't know how to go about doing that.
Problem, I mean, that's not a bad start. You see what happens if all the municipalities around the lake adopt something of that nature, something similar. And then that's provided to the bar. I don't think the bar is gonna fight about it. It's just another document.
In my envisioning of this, we would be doing it under the authority of the village law. So just as we have the inspection authority, we're making an addendum to what we do in our inspection requiring the certification of property transfer. So it wouldn't entail, I mean, this initiative would be thoroughly discussed in the watershed supervisory committee. The town's representatives would report back to their towns about what we're talking about doing. But then it would be sort of an acquiescence or a formal endorsement of our enacting that would get all this going. But I just, as I say, you want to put one foot in front of the other.
Because I run through this on other issues that are gonna say, well, the village doesn't have authority outside of to pass a local law affecting Middlefield.
But we do.
Well,
We did.
The inspection, that was in the state law.
That's in the state book.
It's the state law that gave us the authority. Probably have to see if we could maybe get the state to amend to, I mean, that's where our authority comes from.
Right, it comes from the state law. So the law would be that, right, we are entitled to have this inspection authority. We have the inspection authority from the state. So this is an incident.
Watershed has it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an incident to that authority that we make a record of it. So all we're saying is we're not expanding our authority. We're just saying, when you sell this property, we want a record.
Okay. But what all I'm saying is you're gonna, if it's a village local law, I can guarantee we can't pass a local law here without state authority that's going to affect Middlefield, Seago, Springfield. And they're going to also resent having their toes somewhat stepped on. All I'm saying is we either have to get the state or we get all the 4 municipalities that surround the lake acknowledging that passing the same local law and kind of like we're trying to do with the wakeboard. And then you can enforce it, you send that to the bar. I just know there's gonna be members of the bar that are gonna parse periods. And they're gonna say, what's the authority of this? Because we only have authority, because the state gave us authority to do the inspections. They didn't say, you can put this on record. Now you may say it's kind of just a ministerial act, and maybe it is. Just know you're gonna run into, probably name 8 or 9 attorneys that do a lot of real estate closings that are gonna have questions. That's all I'm saying. But you can try it and see.
Well, and the thing would be to engage, to have theories about it. I don't, it's not.
There's things too. Just we quickly run a couple of it. When we're sitting here talking about the inspections, everyone on the lake, we got them, our family has 4 camps up there. We got letters that said you have to have whoever opens and closes your septic every year. In our case, Mr. Stocking inspected and signed a form. So we made copies of the form, we have them there, but we never knew where to put them. No one told us who, so Mr. Stocking signs, it says in good working shape, you need new it's an interesting phrase, stockings. In the thing, and so they do that. The other thing, when you're talking about identifying property, I went to the county, was a GIS department for $25. I said, I want a map of the whole lake. Uh, Put in my tax map number, primarily because my wife loves when we're out on the boat to know when is that. And so she can unroll it, except now we have it. Every couple of years, I go and get a new one because Meg likes to know who bought what. And so, but and that's all just all by tax map numbers. It's everything within, I had it done. They can give you anything there. I said, I want it within 500 feet of the lake. And so they developed it's a picture of the whole lake from Cooperstown to Springfield. And then every single property is given a tax map number and then an index sheet numerically running along. So we can just, as we go around, you just look and see who owns it.
Right, and the challenge for the village is to get that integrated so that we have a mailing list that we
Right.
know the name of the person that's gonna go and get who's gonna get the letter, who owns that property.
They want it, they give you all that here. I don't care about the mailing address, but one year I got that without asking for it. My index was this long and I didn't really want that because it's on the wall upstairs in our hallway, just so we can grab it. But the point is, I think that information, if somebody went to the GIS department at downstairs in the county building, cost me $25. And said, can you do this for us? And you explain your need. I would say I'm an attorney for different organizations and I need it, so they say, okay. But if you did that and you said, we want the addresses too, I know they can do it because it mistakenly thinking you all the addresses once, which I didn't care about.
So the addresses are gonna be the current address of the owners.
It'll be right off the deed.
Well, all I'm trying to say, we need the logistics of getting this, because once you get that information, it's got to be made useful to Jake.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to hit a
Yeah.
keystroke.
Jake, this is something that probably doesn't need
Yeah.
to be here. Jake can work with the county to get the list updated because they're the ones, the county, that list went over to them to get the tax map numbers, the ownerships and all. They would be able to quickly update that as well. I will also point out the county has been doing some wonderful GIS tax real property webinars, and I've done a couple. That is amazing what that new system will allow you to do and the different maps you can call up and you can lasso properties and do all sorts of things. So if you ever have a little bit, the webinars are still online. You can click on them and watch them and it's really beneficial. So let's see, motion to accept. Oh, wait, the watershed supervisory, we have a contract here for another year of scientific advisor services from Yokota for the Watershed Supervisory Committee. I move that we approve the contract for July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. Second by Audrey, all in favor?
Okay. Not stating.
And we, so motion to accept it really wasn't ours, and I didn't see anything that really needed changing. Those were good minutes, I thought, this time, much.
Yes, it was. They were,
Great.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
We spent a lot of time on it.
good, yeah, that was showed and it's appreciated. New business. Until just very recently, our village clerk, throughout all the years of Terry being here and Jenna have always handled the personnel forms, filling them in, sending them sending the pink sheets. There's so many little hurdles. Jenna has done it. For some reason, they said, oh, it's got to be the chief executive, which is, of course, me. And am I in there 24 hours a day? I'm in there just about every day, but not that. So I make a motion to authorize the village clerk to sign all personnel change forms that are filed with the Otsego County Personnel Department. Second by Audrey. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, upcoming meetings, we have breakfast with the board Monday, July 27th from 8 AM to 9 AM. And our regular trustee meeting will be July 27th. That's it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
So Cindy, I have.